You're entering the Blitz with your host, Matt Maldonado, on Madness4life News. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Matt Maldonado, here in Fremont Region 9, Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is the Blitz, Madness4life News, and it's podcast number 46 and episode number 17. It is September 17th, 2012. I'm going to be getting into a lot of RT news here today. All right, let's start with this one. RT, don't insult our prophet over 100,000 march in Beirut protest. 100,000 march in Beirut protest. Biggest ever rally over an anti-Islamic film has brought scores to Beirut, Lebanon, following a call for mass demonstrations by Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, there we go. Most of the demonstrators were wearing green and yellow headbands, inducting membership in Hezbollah. The official number of the number of people is yet to be released, but has been estimated, based on video and photos, to be over 100,000 people. America, hear us, don't insult our prophet. The protesters were chanting. The rally was split into two columns, with women marching separately from men, somewhere holding portraits of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Spectators' shouts of death to Israel and America is the biggest devil could also be heard from the crowd, as RT's Lucy Kofanov reported from the scene. A protester nevertheless told RT that the demonstrators' anger is not with the American people, but with the U.S. government for allowing the film to spread. The crowd swaying Hassan Saria in person addressed the gathering in his rare public appearance. Hezbollah announced the beginning of a global campaign to halt the screening and sharing of the provocative film. He stressed that the world does not understand Muslims' deep reverence for the Prophet Muhammad. This is the start of a serious movement that must continue all over the Muslim world in defense of the Prophet of God. He said to roars of support, as long as there's blood in us, we will not remain silent over insult against our prophet. The Lebanese political leader also called on the international community to criminalize insults to Islam as well as Christianity and Judaism. The U.S. Must understand that releasing the entire film will have very dangerous persecutions under the world, he said. According to Press TV, he argued for the movie's creators to be punished appropriately. Monday was Hezra's fifth public appearance in 6 years, and the first time he made a full speech in person to thousands of his supporters since 2008. He has been in hiding since 2006 when Hezbollah fought a month-long war with Israel. Sorry, I can't say his name, first called for widespread nonviolent protests on Sunday. The U.S. must be held accountable for the film because it was produced in America, he said. So far, the rally have stayed away from the U.S. Embassy, but reports suggest diplomats at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut have started to destroy classified material as a security precaution. The amateur film Incense of Islam sparked outrage across the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia last week. Many Muslims were infuriated by a clip of the film posted to YouTube that mocked Islam's Prophet Muhammad in a protest which followed across the world. Several people have been killed and dozens were arrested as angry crowds vented their anger in front of the U.S. Embassy and consulate services. And it shows you pictures from that article of the march. Moving on here. Pakistan orders YouTube shutdown over blasphemous anti-Islam film. Pakistan's Prime Minister has ordered YouTube's suspension in the country over the blasphemous anti-Islam film as the country has become gripped by violent protests in response to the video. The Prime Minister said the blasphemous material would not be tolerated and the service of YouTube would remain suspended until the removal of blasphemous material. The Prime Minister's office said in a statement. PM Russia Pervez Asharaf ordered the ban after YouTube refused to heed to the advice of the government of Pakistan to remove blasphemous film from its site. Pakistan has been trying to block the inflammatory video which depicts Islam's Prophet Muhammad as a child molester since Thursday. Over 700 YouTube links to the trailer of the amateur film entitled The Incense of Muslims have been blocked on the authorities' request, but this has proven to be proven hard. So far, Google has been refusing calls from the White House to review the trailer and ban it altogether. Since the clip remains within the company's guidelines, instead the U.S.-based company, which owns YouTube, has been responding to requests from individual countries. We've restricted access to it in countries where it is illegal, such as India and Indonesia, as well as in Libya and Egypt, given the very significant situation in these two countries. The campaign said the approach is entirely consistent with principles we first laid out in 2007. In addition to Egypt, Libya, India, and Indonesia, Access to the video in question has also been blocked in Afghanistan, where authorities blocked YouTube entirely until the video is deleted from the website. And in the United Arab Emirates, meanwhile, the anti-film demonstration in the Asian country are only widening. Made alone, over 10,000 of Pakistanis all across the country were venting their anger at the U.S. and the film. 2 people were killed in clashes with police as hundreds strong rallies marched through towns and cities, burning U.S. flags, portrayed portraits of President Barack Obama, and at times buildings they were passing. Over 50 people, 40 people have been arrested. And it continues on with other pictures from the protests in Pakistan, I believe. Continuing here. Next article. These are top articles from RT, by the way. These are just all RT articles. Continuing. Mass arrests in New York City as Occupy Wall Street movement marks 1-year anniversary. Hundreds of police barricaded the New York Stock Exchange as Occupy Wall Street protesters swarmed the financial district for the movement's 1-year anniversary, with over 100 reportedly arrested. Police made 124 arrests by 12:15, primarily for disorderly conduct or impeding vehicle or pedestrian traffic. NYPD chief spokesman Paul Bryan told the Wall Street Journal witnesses had previously reported on Twitter that demonstrators were being arrested for blocking pedestrian traffic, while well-known local artist named Molly Crapable was sitting in a police van when she wrote on her Twitter page that people were being yanked off the sidewalk by police. The final tally will ultimately be higher, as at least 7 people were arrested after falling on the Bank of America building later in the afternoon. Several more arrests were subsequently reported after demonstrators marched to the World Financial Center in Lower Manhattan and the Ascent Goldman Sachs building, a tower actually, Goldman Sachs Tower. Around half a dozen protesters staged a sit-in protest outside of the Goldman Sachs headquarters and refused orders by police to disperse. Yeah, because Goldman Sachs is, they're the ones that control the country, and you can't do that, which is ridiculous because I think people should do that. Just sit literally where their doors are and just not allow them to go in the building. People would probably say, like, burn the building. I wouldn't call for that. No, I wouldn't call for that. No. It has to be a peaceful protest. The continuing here, the protesters' intentional plan was to surround the New York Stock Exchange and hold a sit-down protest, though the heavy-handed police redirected protesters to Bowling Green Park, where the iconic Charging Bull sculpture is located. Protesters later moved on the Battery Park on the southern tip of Manhattan, where activists reported up to 1,000 peaceful protesters had amassed. By earlier afternoon, union leaders and activists had already began streaming into Zuccotti Park, the epicenter of the Occupy Wall Street movement, with Stradnik police sirens marking the heavy presence of the NYPD in the area. Around 1,000 supporters of Occupy Wall Street met at 4 separate meeting points to mark the movement's one-year anniversary earlier Monday morning. Some 200 people gathering in the park, the movement's birthplace, by 7 a.m. local time, and later began marching south along Broadway. When the group was confronted by several police officers at the entrance to Wall Street, several of them sat down in protest. Upon refusing to remove, they were arrested. A group of 50 protesters entered the lobby of the the J.P. Morgan Chase building, and 8 were arrested. New York Daily News reported the Occupy Wall Street movement, sparked by protests late last year against corporate greed, income equality, and the corrupting influence of money in politics, was ineffective for several months. Monday's protest comes in the wake of 3 days of civic activism intended to breathe new life into the movement ahead of its one-year anniversary. After the movement set up tents in New York City's park last September, Occupy Wall Street spawned a number of similar Occupy protest groups across the U.S. and in major cities around the world. The group's creators dubbed themselves the voice of the 99%, and protest chiefly against the wide gap between rich and poor in the U.S. The Occupy movement was dealt a blow in November when a police crackdown broke up the group's main encampment at the park, with some 200 people arrested in the process. Many of the group's public protests likewise saw mass arrests and related reports of police brutality against activists. And it shows all the pictures from the Occupy Wall Street there in New York. I like that one with the dog hats in front of Bank of America. And there's police acting all tough, you know, with mostly with pot bellies, as you can clearly see. Pot belly thugs, because they have to defend the criminals because they're wearing suits. But hey, that's okay. All right, continuing here with these articles from RT. Top 5, by the way. Top 5 articles. White House demands military prisons for Americans under NDAA. The White House has asked the U.S. Second Circuit Court of Appeals to place an emergency stay on a ruling made last week by a federal judge so that the president's power to definitely detain Americans without charge is reaffirmed immediately. On Wednesday, September 12th, U.S. District Court Judge Kathleen Forrest made permanent a temporary injunction she issued in May that bars the federal government from bidding by the definite detention provision in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012. or NDAA, Judge Forrest ruled that a clause that gives the government the power to arrest U.S. citizens suspected by maintaining allies with terrorists and hold them without the due process violated the Constitution, and that the White House would be stripped of that ability immediately. Only hours after Judge Forrest issued last week's ruling, the Obama administration threatened to appeal the decision, and on Monday morning they followed through. At around 9 a.m. Monday, September 17th, the White House filed an emergency stay in a federal appeals court in an effort to have the Second Circuit strip away Judge Forrest's ruling from the week earlier. Because really what's happening is the fact that it doesn't matter what she says, it's just, you know, the government has the power and you don't. Continuing. There we go. Almost immediately after Judge Forrest ruled, the Obama administration challenged the decision, writes Chris Hedges, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist that is listed as the lead plaintiff in the case. According to Hedges, the government called Judge Forrest most recently ruling an outrageous, extraordinary injunction of worldwide scope, and executive branch attorneys worked into the weekend to find a way to file their stay. The Justice Department sent a letter to Forrest and the circuit, the Second Circuit, late Friday night, informing them that at 9 a.m. Monday, the Obama administration would ask the Second Circuit for an emergency stay that would lift Forrest's injunction. Hedges writes. This will allow Obama to continue to operate with indefinite detention authority until a formal appeal was heard. The government's decision has triggered a constitutional showdown between the president and the judiciary. Attorney Carl Mayer, a counsel for Hedges and his co-plaintiffs, confirmed to RT earlier Monday that the stay was in fact filed with the Second Circuit. This may be the most significant constitutional standoff since the Pentagon Papers case, Carl Mayer says in a separate statement posted on Mr. Hedges' blog. Bruce Efron, who serves as co-leader counsel along with Mayer, tells Hedges that the White House could be waging a war against the injunction to ensure that the Obama administration has ample time to turn the NDAA against any protesters for anything in domestic demonstrations. A Department of Homeland Security bulletin was issued Friday claiming that the riots in the Middle East are likely to come to the U.S. and saying that DHS is looking for the Islamic leaders of these likely riots. Efron tells Hedges, It is my view that this is why the government wants to reopen the NDAA, so it has a tool to round up would-be Islamic protesters before they can launch any protest, violent or otherwise. Right now, there are no legal tools to arrest would-be protesters. The NDAA would give the government such power. Since the request to vacate the injunction only comes about on the day of the riots and following the DHS bulletin. It seems to me that the two are connected. The government wants to reopen the NDAA injunction so that they can use it to block protesters. Hedges, who was previously reported for papers including the New York Times and the Christian Science Monitor, argued that his job as a journalist requires him to routinely interact and converse with persons that may be considered terrorists in the eyes of the U.S. government. Under the NDAA, Americans who has a part of or subsequently supported Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or associated forces that are engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners can be held in prison cells until the end of hostilities. Vague verbiage that essentially allows for those suspect of such associations to be decided under the discretion of U.S. President Barack Obama or any federal agent underneath them. Because the language is so vague in this law, Mr. Mayer explains to RT if any journalist or activist is seen as reporting or offering opinions about groups that could somehow be linked not just to Al-Qaeda but to any opinionated of the United States or even opinionated of our allies. I spent many years in countries where the military were the power to arrest and detain citizens without charge. Hedges wrote when he first filed his suit in January, "I have been in some of these jails. I have friends and colleagues who have disappeared into military guilds. I know the consequences of granting sweeping and unrestricting policing power to the armed forces of any nation, and while my battle may be it is one that has to fight if we are to have any hope of pulling this country back from corporate fascism." Monday morning, Hedges once more responded to the White House's reckless attempts to reauthorize powers granted under the NDAA, asking if the administration is this crazy to restore this section of the NDAA. It is because the Obama government has already used it. Or does it have plans to use the section in the immediate future? The decision to fight Forrest's ruling is a further example of the Obama White House's steady and reckless assault against civil liberties, an assault that is more more severe than that carried out by George W. Bush, writes Hedges. Obama has refused to restore habeas corpus. He supports the FISA Amendment Act, which retroactively makes legal what under our Constitution has traditionally been illegal, warrantless wiretapping, eavesdropping, there we go, eavesdropping and monitoring directly against U.S. citizens. He has used the the act 6 times against whistleblowers who have exposed government crimes, including war crimes, to the public. He interpens the 2001 Authorization to Use Military Forces Act as giving him the authority to assassinate U.S. citizens, as he did the Unwar al-Awlaki, there we go. Unwar al-Awlaki, and now he wants to right to use the armed forces to throw U.S. citizens into military prisons where they will have no right to a trial and no definite length of detention. In his latest blog post, Hedges acknowledges the government has now lost 4 times in a litigation that has gone on almost 9 months. And that's it for that. One more article for everybody. Still from RT. No DNA link to Assange. There we go. In Condom Central to sex assault case. A ripped condom given to Swedish police by one of Julian Assange associates does not contain the WikiLeaks founders' DNA forensic scientists have reportedly found. In a 100-page document shown to Assange's lawyers, it was revealed that the torn prophylactic has been examined by staff at 2 forensic laboratories, did not bear conclusive evidence that Assange had ever worn it, the Daily Mail reported on Sunday. Assange's lawyers said the lack of DNA evidence on the prophylactic, which was allegedly used during a supposedly August 2010 sexual assault, indicates that a fake one could have been submitted. The woman in question, now age 33, claims to have been molested by Assange at her flat in Stockholm. She says that at one point he deliberately broke a prophylactic in order to have unprotected sex with her. Assange claims he had sex with the woman, but denies intentionally tearing the prophylactic. He had previously told police that he continued to stay at her residence for the week following the alleged incident, saying his accuser never made any mention of the problem of the ripped condom. But DNA appropriately belonging to Assange was presented on a submitted by a second woman who has accused him of rape, prohibiting Swedish authorities to push ahead with their bid to have him extracted from the UK. However, his second accuser, now 29, who claims to have been raped in her sleep by Assange, apparently told police that she had not been opposed to having unprotected sex with him, despite previous statements to the contrary. The daily reports. Assange denies the allegations of rape, maintaining he had sex with the second woman as well. The Swedish prosecutor's office refused to comment on the report, saying that the investigation was ongoing. The DNA evidence was supposed to be the killer evidence. Now when we have found that there is no DNA on one of these prophylactics for one of the alleged victims, if it rather calls into question substantial evidence against him. Human rights campaigner Peter Tenchel told RT, and it continues on from there. I'm going to end it right now, end this segment right now, by saying thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. If you want to hit that subscribe button, you can hit it up on the top of this video, or you can also follow me on the links below, or you can also follow Close to Modern, Night Owls. You can follow them on the links below and download that music. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me and tolerating me today, and God bless America.